Welcome to Live from America podcast. This is Hatem, special episode today. We are stepping inside a world that most people only hear about in headlines. Nobody actually truly understand. From elite military operation to the shadowy world of like the private contractor, military contractor. It's a subject that and a topic I've been wanted to know forever. Uh, and we have the perfect guest for you. Our guest is Trevor Fortner. Is a former Navy Special Warfare operator and a former Blackwaters contractor who has operated some of the mo most complex and dangerous environment in the world. And now he's here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hatem. Thanks for having me.
You know, I have so much to talk about this topic. I was born in Kuwait and I lived there until the first Gulf War and then I moved. So much I know too much and I have so many theories about Blackwaters and the military operation and all that stuff. But this is why I wanted to get a guest like you, and I'm very fortunate to have you, is it's not theories anymore. Now we're going to talk about experience, something that you've seen, you've done. You go there. So, can you start just letting everybody know a little bit about you, what you did, from the military to the private contractors, and then we'll talk.
Yeah. Yeah. So I joined the United States Navy directly out of high school. Spent 3 years in what we'd say the regular military as a gunner's mate on two different ships overseas in Japan. And I was going through a transition where I was about to get out of the military, and I had the opportunity to apply for the Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Program. It's the Navy Diving Bomb Squad team. So I went through that pipeline and then went in. I stayed in the Navy, but I got assigned to an Army counterterrorism unit to provide EOD and IED, improvised explosive device, subject matter expert. That got me into a little bit of personal protection and recovery type of operations, which then I transitioned into Blackwater coming out of the military. And I made a difficult decision. It's an easy decision to get out of the military, but hard long term. I had become a single father to a newborn child, and the military tempo and the operations of being deployed for that length amount of time just wasn't conducive. The war in Iraq and Afghanistan were really kicking off in the early 2000s. So I took a position with Blackwater and spent a number of years with them. And then I worked again for the US government for an agency in nuclear weapons counterproliferation. Spent some time over in Australia and Abu Dhabi working with their national defense forces. Right now, I work for a aerospace engineering firm, and we do some autonomous UAV flight tests.
And you worked with some of the top decision makers in that area, correct? You work with the
Mhm.
United States ambassador in Iraq, was it?
I led his security detail. I
Yeah.
didn't have the conversations with him to make political
Yeah.
decisions. My job was to keep him safe while he was doing that.
Yeah. I interviewed a lot of like Secret Service and always do you have to like the person that you're protecting or you're like whatever?
Oh
Can they
man,
feel it?
yes, 100%. It honestly helps, at least from my experience and the guys that were on my team. There was a person before that ambassador that we had heard some people didn't like working for. It was a bit more of a headache. The ambassador that I had, Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad, was a phenomenal human being. He never gave us any problems. He put the ownership on us as it was supposed to be to protect him. So we chose the routes. We chose, we would adjust the timings if we needed to. And he always just respected us and looked up to us and let us do our job. And we just needed to get him somewhere safe. So it does help when you joke around about like, man, would I take a bullet for this person? Some people go like, oh, I'm protecting someone I really don't like. Maybe I would hesitate. But I think they're mostly just talking smack, with the teammates because as a professional, who I'm protecting is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
I have a job to do, and most of the guys that I worked with were professionals about it.
Yeah, usually protect a symbol, like not the person, it's just a symbol
Mhm.
of the United States of either it's ambassador or president or head of anything, or however you worked with. I feel like a lot of people, I always say that to especially to the younger generation, you got to travel to understand the world. You got to travel to
Oh
understand the
my
world.
goodness,
You
please,
know,
Trevor.
Yeah, but also some people do traveling and they do just a touristy thing. But I think people like you, who actually were involved in a lot of the conflict, and you were there between the cultures, and you saw, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I always feel, because I grew up between here and there, I always feel like there's more similarity than differences. It's everybody's getting the wrong idea about the other side. Do you have the same experience?
I do, absolutely. One of the questions I was asked before was my thoughts about the Middle East. And if you go to a general American person, as soon as you say Middle East, they're going to think of war, terrorism, poor culture. My experience is different. Like the Middle East, Middle Eastern culture is probably one of the most amazing cultures I've experienced. Like they're very family orientated. They have their priorities of family and of their nation, like the patriotism in the United Arab Emirates, what you see around Dubai and Abu Dhabi, their patriotism, it completely trumps the United States. Like you will not disrespect their king or their royalty. You will not disgrace their flag. Like local population would not allow it. You don't even have to wait for the military or police to show up. The local populace almost polices their own.
And that's why I always say, for those who want to separate the world, it's always about working together because we would not have gotten bin Laden if it wasn't help of the Muslim and Middle Eastern culture. We would not get any of the terrorists if we're not
Mhm.
working together. And somebody like bin Laden or any of the terrorists that they start, they bombed there first, and we were trying to get them, and the United States is like, no, 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 freedom fighters, and then that's why
Yeah.
we have to work together. But I want to talk about like a little bit about the war, but really want to talk about the private military contracting. You see the war right now, what's happening and all that. How much do you feel people understand? Because you were, without saying too much, you were in rooms where major decisions are being made. I'm not asking you to say anything, obviously, and I know that you wouldn't anyway, but when you see the reality, like we see the end of it, which is the war, but leading to that, do you feel like people done enough not to stop the war? Because why do we still have wars?
Man, why do we have wars? There's evil people out there.
Yeah.
There's people with other agendas that don't necessarily align with our morals and ethics. And I wish we could say war would go away, but it's not going to go away. To your point or to your question about did we do enough prior to, that's a question that the general populace will never have the answer to because we will never be privy to certain conversations. There's this thing about currently with China and the United States where there was this theorist that came out and said, what really needs to happen is that you have backdoor America, backdoor China, and they make the work happen and they keep life going on. But on the grand stage of the world, we're still going to pretend we hate one another and nitpick. Whether that's to control the populace or not, I'm not really for sure. But there's definitely backroom conversations that happen. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, but I can't go out to my nation and tell them that I'm doing this
Yeah.
for whatever reasons, right? So I think there was probably a lot of things done prior to the actual combat engagements in Iran to avoid those operations. And eventually it came to a tipping point where we had a line in the sand drawn. And if that wasn't met, the next
Trevor there?
your screen had frozen.
Yeah, yeah, you froze as well. The last thing I got was draw a line in the sand.
Yeah, so once that line is crossed, you have to take some other action, right? Like, so we would have planned out certain milestones and objectives. Like, if this is met, then we'll do X. If it's not, we'll do Y. Eventually, we got to that line, and the direction we took was combat engagements.
You're absolutely right about the evil people. I always remember that scene from Batman Returns when he's like, when he was explaining the Joker, and he said, like, some people just want to watch the world burn. There's nothing you
Yeah.
can do about it. They just, some people are just evil like that. Then you what and you're absolutely right about the war too. Like everything is going to like even we see the previous engagement between the United States and Iran. They say like, okay, after they kill Soleimani and Iran is like, we're gonna fire this missile, it's gonna land here, just to let you know. So it's everything. Obviously, we have a president like Trump who's just gonna say everything. So, but
Yeah,
usually that will be a back line, or be like, oh, just don't say anything. We're gonna just to let our people know we're gonna fire a missile. It's not gonna get anything.
yeah.
Um, but do you? So one more question about this war, and then we'll move on to the Blackwaters and private military contracting and stuff like that. Is it more you feel like controlled and calculated, or is it more chaotic, the war itself?
It depends on the person's perspective that's looking at it. From our military leadership, it's very calculated out. It's very decision orientated. Those decisions have been thought through. They've exercised judgment. So that aspect of it, it's very coordinated and controlled. If you were to ask a person, a family in Iran right now, they would say it's chaos. Their quality of life is disrupted. Their normalcy is not normal anymore. There's food shortages. There's, medical issues, hospitals being, overrun, not overrun in a combat sense, but they're being overutilized and taxed. So it comes down to the individual's perspective. On a large scale, war appears to be chaotic from the outside. Most of the operations, though, they're all planned out. You may be reacting to something, but you're using calmness and clarity to continue to move forward.
Okay. So one last question. I'm sure we got to get back to that to the topic, but as somebody who served, and was involved in so many fair, do you feel like politicians make decision with the lives of the military in mind and to what capacity? Because the ones that pay the price, the ones that, do all the stuff are you guys, you know? Uh, and that goes
Sometimes
for
it doesn't feel like that.
exactly, right? But
I will.
they will take the win, and you
Mhm.
win battles in a like very small scale, like even like one bullet at a time, like you sacrifice your life the whole time. Do you feel like how do you feel about all this?
Um, there again, back to another line in the sand. I have to recognize my role as a professional soldier and stay with inside my swim lane. If I want to affect the political decision makers, then I need to change career fields in that. And we have exceptional intelligence analysts and targeters that take a massive amount of information and they put it down to the shortest snippet brief to give to a decision maker or to a policy maker, and that's what they've got to use to make their decisions. Now, in the military, we will use a risk matrix where we will either perform a mission or not perform a mission based off the probability of friendly deaths. And there's particular missions where you'll say, you know, 2% of our, 2% attrition rate is acceptable for this mission. And then there's other times that a 20% attrition rate is expected and is acceptable. It
Mm.
doesn't feel good to be a soldier and know that, but we also volunteer, right? Like I joke around about the Navy, that the Navy stands for never again volunteer yourself. But right now, and for the last few decades in the United States, there's no draft. Everybody in the military has volunteered,
Yeah.
right? And people have to remember that, like individually. Like I've met people, soldiers downrange, in Baghdad that said, "Oh, I wish I wasn't here." Well, then you should have joined the military.
Yeah.
Like if you thought you're just going to join the military and get the college degree out of it, do 4 years, put it on your resume, good luck with that. There's plenty of people that have been successful with it. But when your country calls you up for duty, that's what you ultimately have signed up for. And one of the things that I like now about our Department of War, particularly with the renaming of that, is that we're going back to a warfighter community, right? That's our ethos. And so now the 17, 18-year-olds that are graduating high school, considering going into the military, I hope they pause and really think about that and go, you know what? Maybe this just isn't a cool thing to go and do. Maybe I will go in harm's way, and I really need to think through if I'm going to go through with that.
Yeah, that's a very good point that people that or there are mostly, or not mostly, all of them, well, this is what they wanted to do. I just have two counterpoints to that. One is a lot of times they're too young to make that decision.
Oh,
And I
100%.
think that sometimes they don't get the right picture about what could or should happen. Boots on the ground. We rarely see that, these days, especially for our military,
Mhm.
because we overwhelmingly like in this dominate the skies. So a lot of times I don't see why would we even need that. Um, but on the other hand, you see like now we're getting into like a little drone thing that can cost nothing and becomes a weapon. Like so you have one side that's so advanced and one side is not advanced, but yet they both can do the same damage in a way. But what do you say to
If
the
not more damage.
not, yeah, 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 yeah. And especially like to targets that things that they secured.
Mhm.
But what's your thing? Do you think that the age should be a little older for kids if they want to join the military, or you don't believe that? How you
No,
were right out of high school. Wow.
right out of I was actually trying when I think I was like late 16, early 17, and my mother, I was actually trying to join the Air Force to be a pilot, and my mother would not sign the paperwork. And through a series of frustrations and just coincidence, I ended up joining the Navy, and it was right before I turned 18, and she was like, "Well, kid, you're not quitting at this. Like, I might as well just sign the papers."
Yeah.
So I ended up signing just before I turned 18.
Every friend of mine that's in the military have the exact same story that they wanted to be there
Yeah.
since they were like this is their thing, their dream. It just this is
Mhm.
what they want, you know. All right, so let's go to the private military contracting. Blackwater's, back in I don't know if they still exist. Do they still exist?
The company itself rebranded and was purchased under another umbrella corporation that actually owns quite a few contract companies.
Okay.
So Blackwater, as of itself, no longer exists.
Okay, so why did you join and why did you leave?
Blackwater, I joined that straight out of the military right in the beginning of the war, and it was
Which war?
the Gulf War.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Operation Freedom, Enduring Freedom.
Okay.
And it was based off of teammates of mine in active duty. They were transitioning over to Blackwater and patriotism. I wanted to stay with my teammates. I wanted to do the job. I wanted to be a patriot and do the work. And I thought that's how being a patriot was to go to war and serve your country. And so I left the military and did contracting. I did it for a number of years, and then for about 2 years, I did a few operations throughout the year and spent most of my time at home. After having been home for a number of months, I went back over for a month's mission, and that's when I realized like I'm only here for the money right now. I'm still a patriot. I can do patriotic things at home with my family, with my community. I don't have to serve in war zones. And that was a gut check of a reality to realize and acknowledge to myself I was not in Baghdad for the missions anymore. It was just to collect a paycheck. And when I actually acknowledged that to myself, I left that world.
Sadly, you should be getting paid more when you're in the military, doing,
Oh my,
it's
I'm
it's
just
crazy that we have to do it like that, but
I'm disgusted with the pay of the military.
it's
Yeah,
it's 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 crazy. It's funny to me that the people that cover the war get paid more than the people actually in the war while they're like, and it's crazy. So let's talk about the world of private military contractor because there's so many stories. Is it evil? Is it good? Is it meant to be evil? Is it meant to be good? You froze again.
you're moving now.
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear me? I was saying if are they evil or are they good? The private military contractor companies, are they meant to be evil or are they meant to be good?
I would say the majority of them are definitely good. They have great reasons to do what they do. I think the Wagner group out of Russia is a prime example of an evil organization. I mean, that wasn't I hesitate to even call them a private military company because it's kind of a disgrace to the legitimate ones that were out there. That was just a bunch of hodgepodge and people being thrown together just to get more bodies on the front lines, right? The contract companies that I've worked with or been around have all been very professional from a hierarchy down to the troops on the ground. Now, as individuals, you'll always have, odd individuals in the military, in, soccer teams like you've experienced to private militaries. We had some people that should not be in private military contracting. And one of the good things about that is as we're not in the military, I can actually fire these people. We can go up and we can talk to our leadership and say, hey, this person's performance is this, their attitude is this, and we get rid of them right away because we don't want the legalities or the black eye for having some, we'll say, steroid raging guy running around with guns.
Yeah. But I feel like sometimes, or some of the theories that, private military contractors, companies especially, are there obviously to make money, a lot of money, you know. So for them, if when the motivation is money, then you have to create the job or keep the job as it is. So the overall, I haven't like obviously the private contractor. They were success. I don't want to say they weren't successful in Iraq. They were successful protecting a lot of things, which a lot of people don't see it that way.
Mhm.
But like I said, because I've been there, so I know that they were very protective, which saved our military from doing some stuff that created that. But I feel the motivation behind it also is to continue the chaos.
You know, there's plenty of businesses out there. President Kennedy had once made a comment about be wary of the industrial military complex. And so I don't want to just categorize private military companies as out there to make a profit. And of course they are there to make a profit. Look at the companies making UAV right now. Look at the engineering and aerospace companies. They're all war profiting to some extent. People can argue and justify that to any number of means of, hey, somebody's going to make the product, so it might as well be me. I don't get involved with the reasons people do it. I know the reasons why I'm doing something, and if it violates my moral ethics or values, then I just won't take the job.
Mm, okay. So do you feel that, the military contractor, or how does it like what laws they work under? Is it the laws of the United States? Is it the laws of the country they're in? Is it international law? Which law they obey?
It's a bit of a combination of all of them. And that was a trial and error and lesson learned out of the war in the early 2000s up through 2020 is how do you regulate and control and hold accountable private military contractors? Because the United States military uses the Military Code of Justice to hold you accountable. It's known as the UCMJ. The private military contractors weren't at that time held under those same standards, and so we had some conflicts in and around Iraq where there was instances or engagements with private military companies that from an outside perspective it would have looked like they were just brushed under the rug, whereas the military it would have been a bigger deal over national news. And that was something that the politicians definitely looked at, saying, how can we regulate these contractors more? And I witnessed that with the Department of State coming into Blackwater and start mandating and issuing new regulations. Like we were transitioning to where we started to wear or have cameras video and audio recording devices in all of our vehicles. And they were going the direction of having them on individuals so that they could hold us accountable, kind of as a in between until they could get the actual rules and regulations sorted.
Yeah, I feel like you said, individuals in the military or in private, those are the ones that make, the big mistakes that can ruin everything. But, the people behind, I feel the military has always, been, you know, have morals in terms of like general concept. But the private companies, I don't know. They could be the future though of armies.
I think so. I think there'll be, I mean, our national state forces will stay growing. Um, their capabilities will continue on. Private militaries, I think, will become a little bit more pronounced as we move forward. Historically, PMCs only hired previous military personnel. So in a sense, you're still getting the same human beings. They're just wearing a different shirt. They're getting a different HR team, but they're still the same. Like over half the guys on my 12-man team I had worked with in some capacity on active duty.
Hmm.
And so we all knew the same tactics and the same skill sets. We just had a different type of mission set. Now, with the growth of PMCs, there are some opportunities for someone to come out of high school or college, never have been in active duty military, and go join these private military contract companies. And that's where my that the radar goes up then, because then you've got to ask yourself, and you already stated this, what's their reason for being there? Is it just to say, hey, I'm a PMC? Is it to make the money? Is it to do the dangerous work? Like, I don't think PMC companies really preach an ethos to somebody that hasn't already come in with one.
Are they all a United States citizens that work in the no, okay.
No.
Different kind of like United Nation kind of militaries and stuff like
It
that.
depends on the contract that they're supporting. So one of the contracts I supported was from the Department of State. And the specific mission that we had, you had to be a US citizen to be part of that contract. There's other contracts that are issued to those PMC companies that you can outsource. Like we outsourced some security to Colombian nationals. They get paid less because of their home country. Their pay scale is different from what the Western world is.
Hmm.
That created conflict when you would have a Colombian security guard next to an American security guard. They're doing the same role, same job. They're in the same threat matrix, but their pay is significantly different.
Yeah. What about training and regulation? Like how much are you like satisfied? Like obviously in the military go through a lot. Like if you compare the military to private contractor in terms of like training, equipment and ethics, rules of
Yeah.
engagement.
We followed the rules of engagement for us. We followed the military's rules of engagement. They brief them every day before a mission. You get the rules of engagement. If there's any changes or deviations from the previous day's brief. So even as PMCs, you get the rules of engagement for your particular mission or your area that you're operating in. And then as far as the training, back to the original private military contractors that I started working with, you couldn't join unless you had an active duty resume with very specific bullet points of experience. The contract dictated that we go through particular training that was mandated by Department of State as well. So not only it wasn't just as simple as joining the company, you actually had to go through vetting and selection processes, go to the range, demonstrate your skill set, your capability, work with your teammates, and conduct all the operations in a training environment and pass that selection before you were ever hired to go downrange.
Okay. What about like all the you know, bad things that was done by Blackwater? Obviously, they're trying to rebrand themselves, like we talked,
So
but do you think this is actually real, or it was just like they were painted as evil?
yeah, so let me pick on the question you just said. You said all the bad things Blackwater did. Tell me one thing they did wrong, and we'll talk about that thing.
Okay. I think there was a few incidents where they shot some civilians that they were not in the in any harm, any way of danger of anything like that. They weren't like near the facility or anything like this. Also, some interrogation techniques that they used. These are the two
Yeah,
most.
so we'll talk about those two topics, right?
Yeah.
So, Nassau Square. This is the incident that you're referring to
Yeah.
about Blackwater shooting civilians. I was about a kilometer away from that incident while it was happening. I could hear the gunfight happening. We were trying to get in our helicopters and get spun up. I was on a quick reaction force at the time to fly over them and give them aerial support, and we were denied permission to take off. We had ground teams that were assembled in vehicles ready to push their direction because they were calling for assistance. They were ready to push towards them, and they were denied multiple times to not leave the compound.
Mm.
Later, after that event was over, I saw with my own eyes the vehicles that the Blackwater guys were in, and they were absolutely shot up. Like there's no doubt that there was not a two-way firefight happening. Now, you have to ask if civilians were shot, and then you have to determine if those civilians were shot negligently or targeted. And targeting civilians is, of course, a violation. If if it's found out that a person purposely targeted an innocent civilian, then they need to be held accountable. There were four individuals from Blackwater that were eventually arrested and put into prison for a number of years. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that Trump actually pardoned them. I think it was in his first term that he actually pardoned them before he left office. There's Do you know how many days it took the FBI? The FBI from the United States of America flew over to Baghdad and took one of our security teams as an escort and went out to that roundabout to Nasser Square and did an investigation.
Mm.
I just want people to let that sink in. Okay. The crime scene is back to normal.
Yeah.
You've lived many years in the Middle East. It goes back to normalcy within matters of minutes. People get back on with their life.
While they're shooting.
FBI said, yeah, FBI said, there's no AK-47s laying around. There's no brass from AK-47s laying around. My mate, it's a few days later. Like, so, I mean, that whole incident, my heart goes out to those four individuals and their families. Like that was an atrocity. So I can't get on board with that instance that we purposely engaged civilians. Does it happen? Absolutely, man. We said there's evil people out there. There's evil people in our own military. There's evil people that are firemen. There's evil people that are doctors.
Yep.
I mean, they're everywhere. So we've got to hold the accountability when I look at my teammates and go, man, you're a little bit off. Like, I don't really want to work with you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one instance. Blackwater, unfortunately, I almost want to say they had a target on them, like particularly maybe Eric Prince, that we did some really good things. And the number of times we were attacked, we never lost the principle. We did our job. We lost teammates, of course, but we did our job and we did it exceptionally well. And we did it within budget and within the time that we said we would do it. For some reason, Blackwater just started getting all the bad press to it. Like anything that one of our teammates had done, it's all over the news. And that immediately paints a bias, a negative bias to the rest of the world.
What about the interrogation incidents?
So I'm not for sure if Blackwater interrogators were involved, particularly the was it
Abu
Abu
Ghraib?
Ghraib?
Yeah.
Abu Ghraib.
I don't think they
Um,
were, no, they weren't in Abu Ghraib for sure because it was like very, private
there was the
military.
military
Yeah, it was military
pictures that
100%.
came out,
But there was
right?
other incident and I can't remember. Um, uh,
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Like,
of course, yeah,
we
yeah.
live in a world of reality. It happens. Andy Bustamante and I did a podcast special a few months ago about enhanced interrogation techniques, and it was a really interesting podcast to do because we had a lot of these conversations on where do you draw the line. So we took a couple of well-known YouTuber and podcasters, and we put them through a day's worth of mock interrogations at a very basic, benign level. And then we asked them afterwards, like, has your perception of the use of enhanced interrogation techniques changed? And I'll find the link to that and send it
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, please, yeah.
It's very
I
interesting.
did few episodes as well with people from the guards in Guantanamo Bay or like international lawyers that represent people in Guantanamo Bay. The two things that I t say about interrogation. One, obviously, that everybody talks about is the ticking bomb scenario. What are you willing to do if you are like, obviously, all of us against anything, but when you put yourself, if you manage to take your headspace out and be like, okay, my family, my life, everything here, and there's a ticking bomb, what are you willing to do to get that information? So that's one hand. On the other hand, most of the information that you get after intense interrogation are maybe not correct. I have,
Oh,
so they will
absolutely.
just say whatever to make it stop. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I feel like the people do that, you know, do it because they have some sadistic problems that they just gonna do it because they know they're not getting the right information. The ticking bomb scenario is different.
Yeah,
That's
that's not really an interrogation.
yeah, that's okay. You're saving a lot of lives, so I don't know. The morals have to be different here, but yeah, it's very interesting. But I feel like in general, when you are in a company, private contracting or any company, or even like in a platoon, or even in like if you like in a firehouse, like you can tell if the majority of people of the leadership is evil or not.
Mhm.
And your experience is not. There's some few bad apples like everywhere else.
Yep.
I don't know why their branding choose the name Blackwaters because that's evil in its own. That makes you like look bad. Can you get like something
No,
like
it actually has to do with the location of their original training compound. Um, the reason they had the bear paw as their symbol, that was a known icon in that geographical area.
Yeah,
And I could see how some people would say Blackwater, the name itself, is a dirty name because for the audience that doesn't know, you have potable water, you have black water, which is like bodily fluid,
yeah,
foul water, right? So if that's the perception or the bias that somebody has, right? We look at the Blackwater as the name is related to the geographical location
yeah,
of there. But if you were to ask Eric Prince, maybe he chose Blackwater for a completely different reason,
yeah.
right?
I
I
mean,
heard a story.
the name could be scary for your enemies or people that you're looking for.
Could
So
be.
that's good. But for publicity, especially if you want to be a private contractor, find
All right, Hassan, I'm going to put you on the spot, buddy. If you start a private military company, what's the name going to be?
all the UN bullshit names that they use.
It's what it seems like, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's
The the
because
peace
of
the peacemaker, the peace you oh fuck, get the fuck at it.
see, don't go down the rabbit hole. It's all the bias, right? Like whatever term you give me, whatever my historical experience is what I'm going to frame that term to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it just like, we lead in branding and promote. So like this is one thing that they should know. Especially I would say I would get more something patriotic a little bit and also, international. But all the names, I mean, when you see Taliban, which means students, it's
Mhm.
not really, students. When you see all the Islamic State, they're not really Islamic. When you see even the IDF, it's not. When did the IDF was defend? That's why I like the change of the name of our department too. To the Department of War. I think
Absolutely.
uh, it's good. So. We talk about the future of wars because now wars has changed to from like we said a sophisticated weapon to like a little bit of a drone that costs nothing from maybe private military. Would you be like from your experience, do you think that private contractor or maybe private military could be a better solution for war because these are people that want to a be involved in the war, b they getting paid well as they should,
Yeah.
see they are saving everybody else kind of thing, and maybe the UN, the international forces, like they don't really do anything, but maybe it's the same idea. Maybe it's somebody who doesn't have an agenda that can be in the middle of conflicts. What do you think about that?
No, I think they're pretty valid points. One of the unique things that separates separates PMCs from conventional militaries is private military contractors. You already said it. They're for profit,
Yeah.
right? They're going to pay attention to what things cost, and they're going to be very efficient at it. And it was one of the things I really liked about Eric Prince is that man knew where every cent was going. They didn't waste money. They were very efficient. If the job took 10 men, he sent 10 men. If it took one helicopter, he sent one helicopter. The military doesn't do that. The military sends hundreds of people for a job that only takes a couple of people to do it, right? And then we got the leadership thing about it. Military give orders and it goes down and people follow them. In special operations and particularly certain private military companies, you're treated as an adult, you're held accountable, and you're expected to make critical decisions with limited amounts of information under time pressure and do so accurately. If you do so, you keep your job. In the military, if you don't do it, you still stay in the military, you still
Yeah.
get a paycheck. So the private military companies, they have a little bit more leeway to hire, fire, remove people, and the scope of work, they will send what the scope of work requires and nothing extra.
And
And that
also they
saves
good.
their go. I was just going to say that saves them their overhead, right?
Yeah, and also they get to pick and choose the elite from every branch and from everything. So, they have a big pool to pick from versus the military, you have everybody. And again, I don't think that the military should, recruit that young. That's my personal opinion. I think it is too young to make certain decisions, or at least in the combat. Maybe they could be in a military school or like in the United States, but not
How do
deployed,
you
not
feel
seen.
about how do you feel about like a 2 year mandated service? Like hypothetically, your last 2 years of high school, instead of make you need 18 years of school to, I don't think so. 5 days a week, like our public school system is so far
Yeah,
behind. Let's just think about 2 years of, call it community service, national service. It's something that the UAE implemented while I was there as an advisor. They do a year of mandated
yeah,
national selection. And there was a little bit of pushback from it in the beginning, but after it started, again, back to the patriotism, that unites their entire populace. They've all done this service. By the time they're of this age, we're here in America, not everybody is united, but if everybody in America had to do one thing that every American had to do to be in this country, and if that was 2 years of service, maybe we could give them experience, non-combat experience, but we could give them life experiences so that by the time they finish that and graduate and go off to the world, that they've actually, you said earlier, they've done a little bit of travel, they've seen multiple countries, they've been put in situations that would not threaten their lives, but it would test their ability to make decisions.
100% agree with you. You cannot be more right. And, to add to it, as I play soccer and I never understood. There's one thing that's not happening here is like the pride to play for your country. I know you play baseball and say we're world champion, you don't play anything, but the to play for a national team, to see the flag, and this is what you represent, it's just missing. Like there's everybody that you talk to and the younger is like, I want to play college, I want to play in the NBA. You rarely find somebody except if the Olympics. They say like, I want to play, I want to represent the United States. It's a huge,
Right?
the Miracle in Ice, they didn't win because they're better. They played for the, for the flag. So it's
Yeah.
just like, even like in schools, I don't know if you know that about the Middle East, like every morning you have to salute the flag. It's just like I think it's huge, because some
Oh
people
my
think that
gosh.
like
So here in Georgia, we just moved from Las Vegas, Nevada,
yeah,
and out here in Georgia, we're literally the town is about 15 minutes away, and I think there's two traffic lights in the town. And my daughter just started the local school system here, and every morning they say the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
yeah,
About 20 years ago, I had a young lady ask me this conversation. She wouldn't let her young American kid sing or say the Pledge of Allegiance. She said, "Why would I indoctrinate my child to pledge an allegiance to this flag?" And I thought, wow, that's a really good conversation that every parent should ask themselves. And my answer to her was, we as humans are going to navigate towards something. And if I don't focus my child on American patriotism, they will find something else. And that something else may be better, it may be worse. But I have input, and right now they're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. They're going to belong to this country and have patriotism for it and respect the rest of the world, respect their patriotism, respect their cultures. But in America, probably the last 2 decades, that's a taboo thing. Like if you call yourself a patriot, and I love the red, white, and blue, people freak out. I mean, people are in the streets burning our American flag. As I
Yeah.
said earlier, you would not dare burn the national flag of the UAE. There's no way somebody would walk out in the street and do that.
Yeah, I think there's crazy people in both sides. Like somebody like that you were talking about is like, oh, why would they, and there's a lot of people that made, you find 20 American flags and they not accepting anybody and stuff like that. But the flag doesn't represent the bad thing, the good things. The idea that you can have this conversation right now, there's
Yeah,
so
well,
much that pe people don't see, like people don't understand, okay, there's so much that's wrong with this country, but there's so much that's right. People don't understand that when you're in a war zone, people tell you look for the American flag to be safe. They don't get that. Run to where's to get so if somebody is using the American flag in a bad way, it's not their right. It's not their country. It's everybody's. But you have to belong, yeah, and you have to understand and appreciate and correct what's wrong. Like there's so much that's wrong right now, but that doesn't mean like call yourself even in anthem and say like I don't represent the country. Well, then go. Don't go then. Don't go to the
well,
Olympics.
thank you.
You
Go to
know?
another country. If you don't
Yeah,
like
it's
this
just like
country, go
no,
somewhere else.
you represent, maybe you don't want to represent the administration, maybe you don't represent the president, you're representing the people, you're presenting the chance, the idea, the stuff. But I also blame there's a lot of crazy people with, overdoing flags everywhere. So that's,
100%.
but I just don't, another thing, I talked about this before, kneeling to the flag, you know, uh, during the national anthem, like I understand that the idea of kneeling and to represent a case, I just don't think it should be during the national anthem or due to the flag. Kneel before the game or kneel before, like that's what they do in soccer. They kneel before the game starts, not during the national anthem, not because you insulting what gives you the right to do that, which if you're in other countries, you wouldn't be able to dare to do that.
Oh, I wished so when that was going on, when all those NFL football players were taking a knee and thinking they were somebody special, oh my gosh, if I could have been president when they did that, they probably would have found themselves in Guantanamo Bay. Like that's just absolutely maybe not that far,
Yeah,
right?
I think
But
that's it.
I would have said, you know what, we'll just we'll just take you out of this country. And when you decide you want to come back and stand out of respect, you can. Imagine you or I, let's just say the United Kingdom. When I'm in the UK and I hear their national anthem, mate, it's respect.
Yeah.
I stand up, I'm quiet, I observe it, I respect their culture. I don't have to agree with it or even like it. And this is a problem with a lot of Western people right now. They think because they don't like something, they don't have to do it. It's not about what you think or what you want, it's what is morally and ethically right. Respect somebody else's culture. And our flag, the American flag, red, white, and blue, the 50 stars, it has nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with Hegseth, nothing to do with me. It represents a culture that separated from another country based off tyranny and taxes and other things. And they wanted to come to a land. Don't get me wrong, they did some things to people that were already in this nation that I don't agree with. But that flag represents something more powerful than us. And for people to take a knee to that, it's disgrace. It's disgrace to the military. You said it's a disgrace to the reason that they're on that playing field.
And this is the beauty of it. They can, and they did. And I
That's the
agree with the
problem. We
reasons. The
allowed it.
racism there, no question, but do it and you wanna like do it to get attention. So you want to do it during the NFL game. Okay, great. Why don't you do it before the kicking starts, both teams, like they do in soccer or whatever? But again, I think it's because we're so divided now. There is people from like that so the America First idea, they misunderstand it and they think that they move it from America First to only our America, whatever that the
Yeah.
decision is. But this is the thing is like we have to be in a way that we understand the real world. And but again, back to the main thing is like I feel a lot of the kids, a lot of like they don't feel that uh, love for to represent the country. Like when you find, a like let's say an actor wins whatever. They say the
Yeah.
French actor won, oh, how about the American? So that nationality pride sometimes goes way too over with some people like all the Nick Fuente and all these craziness they'll just take it to another level where it's like only us and it's crazy, but be proud. And I think the children, if they learn it the right way, but the problem is that we have a lot of crazy dads, so, and moms,
Oh, we,
so
we got a lot of crazies out there right now, and you said it perfectly. As long as they learn it the right way.
yes.
And when we look at our back to the public school system, it's not currently designed to raise American patriots for the flag. They're not. It's just divided.
Yeah,
And whether there's an agenda to divide people or not, like that's a whole nother conversation.
yeah,
But that's what we see around here. And you made a comment about the crazy moms and dad, right? That is so unfortunate for the children that are coming up. So I always recommend to people like get involved with your communities. There's plenty of children that are out there, whether they're, church communities or the YMCA or other communities where there's children out there without parents that need some sort of guidance, is to go out and give back, give some sort of service back to your community.
yeah, no, 100%. And I feel back to the and then we move on with this. The school system is like also they don't teach a lot of our bad history, which I think they should, because that's always the point that the people, young adults start learning in an older age about the racism, the slavery, the indigenous people, and they're like, oh my God, we are so fucked up. I become like I hate everything. So if you get that education early and understand what really happened, but also you get all the good things that have been done. I mean, you know, we have horrible history, but so is the whole world. There's blood in everybody's hands, but the idea that we got the COVID vaccine in 9 months, it's insane. And nobody ever talked about this. It's like 9 months. You saved the fucking planet.
If
All right,
you
let's
try
let's
to
get
talk about it,
yeah.
it was not good
Uh,
for you.
but again, there's so many crazy people that, America first. I mean, I look different. I act different. I haven't accent when I travel in, shows or soccer or whatever in the middle of America. I know how I'm getting treated. And I know
Mhm.
how people want to separate me from this, but I think this is America's build on people that come in here. It's been forever. It
Yeah.
just you have to buy in and understand the good and the bad, and why the bad was the bad.
Yeah, it during COVID and the early parts of the Ukraine war, I had some friends at work from other nations, from Russia, from Ukraine, from some Middle Eastern countries. Every one of them, when we had a team discussion, I would find the Americans who live in America, born in America, haven't really traveled the world. They would say these bad, negative things about America. All the other nationalities that are now Americans, all these other nationalities would shake their head at him and go, "You have no idea how you have it like so good." Like, I grew up in Russia, one of them grew up in Sudan, and they were describing their life, their restrictions, their media restrictions, how much their life was controlled, and how little they have freedom, but little, very controlled freedom coming to America. And they say this is the greatest opportunity place in the world. because America has historically accepted anyone.
Yeah.
If you want to come to our country, you're welcome to come to our country, but hold them accountable.
Yeah.
If I go to Japan, I follow Japanese rules. If you come to America, follow our rules.
Yeah.
Whether I like the rules or not, I'm in this country. I have to follow the rules. So why doesn't everybody else?
I really think that the people that moved in here like the second and third generation, first generation too, are the people that gonna keep this country together because they're the only people that experience both sides of the world and understand. I think there's too many American that have an idea about let's isolate it and keep it that race and keep it that way and just and it's going crazy. And I think there's so many that I hate America, I don't want America, I don't see anything in America, and I think that you know, first, second, third generations that's coming in and few of both are what's gonna hold it together because they're the only one that knows what the world is really is, you know? Um,
I agree with that. And get more Americans to travel. And don't you said it when some Americans travel, they do all the touristy things. You're like,
yeah,
my man, don't go eat a cheeseburger and have pizza and French fries when you're in the south of Spain. Like, yes, their pizza's phenomenal, but go have local cuisine. Like, if you're stop doing all the touristy, the catches, riding jet skis. Let's go see other cultures. Go spend a month in another culture. Get out of the hotel. Go rent a house, house sit if you want to. Just go experience the actual lives because I think what people will find is they are just like you.
yeah,
They want family, they want love, they want to see their children grow up and be prosperous and happy and healthy. The politics is a little bit out of view. Like, yeah, their nation's doing whatever, but they're there for their community and their family. And
yeah.
unfortunately, too many Americans don't see that.
And that's why back to wars, I think it's like it's also very tragic because, people, which I don't blame, you get bombed by the US, you get all these people, what are you gonna grow up to be? Of course you're gonna hate everything because you don't know anything, and you are, you got bombed and killed and your family killed by it. That's why these things we have to do a better job with our politicians in general. I mean, this is ridiculous what
Oh,
we've
I
been going
agree.
through the last few years, from I don't like Trump or Biden. It's just like we cannot be. This is what we have. Like it's insane.
Out of a population of how many people?
Yeah, I know.
And
Smart
this is the
people
best
too.
that we could come up with. So that makes you question, like, you know, really what is going on up there? Like,
Yeah,
it's definitely not the person with the best resume applying.
yeah. I tell you, the one good thing about having Trump and Biden before that I think it's very positive is like before when I used to talk to like younger people, it's like you can be a president. They're like, no, but now they're like, yeah, I can be. Anybody can be a president. So.
Pretty much. Yeah. If you
Uh,
just play
let me,
the game.
Yeah, there's like, oh, fuck it. Everybody can, I can talk like this and do this and be, all right, let me ask you quick fire questions. The hard truth. How much of war is really business?
From the higher level,
Yeah.
it's all business.
Okay.
It's all business. At the individual level, it's your life. It's it's way different for the individual. On a global scale, war is business.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like you guys, the one on the field, it's not question about it's not business. You're not even getting paid what you should, but it's not about that. But I'm talking about you are, the one in the field, but the bigger picture, I think everything is business as well. All right, what have you seen that people haven't seen? Like any stories you can share with us, something like that we can keep quiet between just you and me and everybody that listen and watch this podcast.
Yeah. So, what is it that what have I seen that they can't see? Things that they still can't see. Yeah. There's no real surprises about the military. I mean, we announce all of our, the things that we can announce are open source. People can research those and read about those things. The things that are classified for a reason.
Okay. What about you've been in rooms with like meetings and stuff like that? Anything that you can share a little bit about? Do you like about what goes on in these things or
Yeah, I there's two meetings that come to mind. One was with the ambassador in Baghdad. He had a meeting with a group of Muslim females. They were bringing a case to him, and he was going to listen to it and see if he could go influence the local Iraqi men in various ministry offices and see if he couldn't sway them to see the female point of view. Because obviously, the females aren't allowed to go in there and say, "Oh, Minister of Interior, you need to go do this." And so that meeting was supposed to be like maybe 2 hours, and it turned into like an 8 or 10 hour meeting. And I'm watching the U.S. ambassador's face like he's just becoming drained and tired, but he's staying engaged with them. And I listened to over a dozen Muslim women plead their case, and the passion that they had for pleading their case and for the safety of their communities was it was awe-inspiring. And then to see him go and try to push that case to a group of people that did not want to hear anything about it. And that shook me up. Like I wanted to shake them physically and go, they're trying to better your community, to take ownership of their community. One, so I can go home to my kid, which I could quit anytime I wanted to. That was very interesting because you
Mm.
have people that to the heart are really trying to make change, and then the people that can affect change don't even want to listen to them. So it comes back to this communication. Let's sit down and have an open conversation, see if we can't come to a mutually beneficial agreement. And most organizations don't operate that way.
And I feel that that's true with everything, all the negotiation, all the stuff. I feel you know, if we have a clear, communication, maybe we can avoid a lot of wars.
Well,
If we know the
clear
price that we
communication
really
would
pay.
help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it would help.
All right, this has been awesome. Last question. After everything that you've experienced, like what views in life has changed and what have you gained, from everything?
Oh, there's so many things that I could say that I've gained basically based off of awareness and reflection. But one of the things that I've really come to understand is the value of time. When I was younger, doing whatever it was I was doing around the world, I never really thought forward 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. I was just reacting to life. And the older I got, the more I realized like time is running out. I'm never going to replace this time. So I have to be very cognizant of where I spend my time and energy. Is that in a foreign nation trying to rid evil to help another community? Or is it to be here with my children and teach them and educate them? So I think one of my biggest life lessons is the reality that I've learned the value of time and that I need to spend my time wisely.
That's a great advice for everybody. Now one more. I know it's I said that's the last question, but I have one
Now,
more.
go ahead, buddy.
The circle of evil. Do you think we ever going not to have wars? Because the way I see it is like the people are affected by war are the military individuals from both sides, people like you and people like whoever we find. Like let's talk about Iran right now. Um, uh, so, the military, they don't have any choice. You don't have any choice. You're both patriotic and just working for your country and doing that. And then you have the people civilians that's gonna die from here and from there. And this is gonna continue because those civilians and those military, they're gonna grow up to be hating of the other person. It's just gonna be the circle of evil. Like we need to stop it. We need to cut it. Do you think that's even possible? Or because war is business and politicians need something to run on and stuff like that, that will never end. I understand the hates that comes from anybody. I don't know how I feel if I have kids and I lost all my kids to, a missile from Israel. I'd be like, I'll hate them forever, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it depends. So how do we cut the circle? Is it even possible?
I think at the current state of the spirituality of Americans, or sorry, not Americans, of the entire population, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Yeah, I don't think it's possible to not have wars in our current, spiritual human growth state. There's just there's evil people out there, and it's going to take good men and women to stand up and stop that evil. So hypothetically, let's say there's 10% bad people and we eliminate those 10%. All right, well, the generation that's 10 years old now, what are they going to be like when they're 20? Are they going to be bad and we have to deal with them? So that loop continues, right? If you took the earth and took away almost everything from everyone, would you still, you could say we don't have war, right? But you're going to have riots, revolutions. People aren't going to want to play the game that you're imposing upon them. And we saw that during the lockdowns around the world, right? People were like, you can't lock me down. Like, what are you doing? So I would love to say like one day there won't be violence, but I believe that with the human race, particularly, that we will always have violent people.
We do, but I think the problem is we create them, and then we fight
Oh,
them. So
100%.
if
It's
we
us.
yeah, if we haven't created bin Laden to fight the Russian and then to fight the Saudis and to fight the Egyptians and bomb them, which, I was in Egypt when he was bombing in Egypt, and he was protected by us and Taliban, the same thing. Right now, right this second. There's a president in Syria that was a terrorist that we now putting as a president of Syria. What do you think he's going to be in 20 years? And then we're going to attack him and kill all his people. And we're killing all these civilians for nothing. So we need to stop creating all these evil people and let them be. Once evil, always evil. You got to, like, we have to, you know what we need? We need a real leader around the world. Somebody who's just like, fuck this shit, from the beginning.
So that would be an exceptional thing. If you could have that moral, ethical person that was willing to sacrifice everything, and the only person, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because I'm sure there's plenty of other people, but President Kennedy comes to mind when you think about that. Like it's just trying to do the right moral and ethical thing, not only for Americans, but for the community of the world. And unfortunately, as you said, we don't have leaders that do that anywhere that I can think of.
And I'm not into conspiracy theories or anything, but look what happened to him. And it's you can maybe it's not a coincidence. I don't know, but when you have true leaders like that manage to stop creating evil people, that circle of evil people is gonna. But I really think it's done in purpose. Same thing with Hamas, Israel. Give them the money, let them be in charge, do all this, knowing that they're gonna do this, but they're gonna come back and kill hundreds of thousands of people for that. So we once you know that somebody's evil, why would you do that? Um, I can talk to you forever. This
I,
has
I
been
would keep I would keep talking as well.
yeah, this has been
I
amazing.
think my
Definitely would love
8-year-old
to.
bus just got here.
Yeah, we definitely got
Well,
love to get you back again. Well, if people want to find you or follow you or talk to you or email you or anything, how can they do that? How can they find you? Where you are?
you can go to everydayspy.com and there's a spy quiz you can do. It takes a couple of minutes and that will kind of direct you into the knowledge path that you want to go down. You can also send me a message there at everydayspy.com. And then we've just started a Instagram at Tactical Resilience that we're going to start pushing some information to.
All right, perfect. So people can go and follow you there. And I think you're the second guest that we got from Everyday Spy. It's a great organization, a lot of fun, and the podcast is good. And you can watch some of his interviews, Trevor's interviews there too, in their podcast, which is always amazing. Thank you so much. It's been amazing talking to you.
Thanks,
Definitely would love to get you for part two.
Thank you, Hatem.
All right.
I'll be up to New York City to see you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.